What's been going on in education this last week?
I feel like it's been a really busy last week, particularly I think the thing that's sort of happened in the last week is we've heard that Willow Jean Prime has stepped down as education spokesperson for the Labor Party. And with that, we've got the arrival of Ginny Anderson, who's taking that space as a Labor spokesperson. And I mean, I think we've got to give credit where credit's due for Willow Jean. I think she has done a phenomenal job in terms of being a listener and learner in the education space. And I want to acknowledge her willingness to really understand what was going on and a real determination to actually be guided by educators. So, I do think she will be missed in that space for that reason. But I don't know about you. I'm excited about Ginny Anderson coming into the space. I think she's experienced and, she has been around the traps a little bit longer and looks like she could be a really confident, forthright spokesperson. What's your views on it, Liam?
Yeah, look, I've got a lot of positive things to say about the job that Willow did. I think she was starting from kind of square one in
Mm,
terms of getting up to speed in education, and I don't think we should underestimate how complex our sector is. But the conversations I had with her, she was always interested in how we can have the profession as decision makers.
mm,
Is a really nice contrast. But also children seem
yeah.
to always be at the kind of centre of what she was aiming for, and so her moving into the MSD portfolios probably quite a nice fit. Um, but what do you think that says about the Labor Party and education, given that we're kind of 7 months out from the election, that they are doing the kind of reshuffle now?
I don't know. It's been really interesting, hasn't it? I know one of the things we've talked about offline a number of times is that with the election coming up this year, we've noticed that Labor doesn't have education as an election issue. So it's going to be an interesting one as we move towards, because I think we're so used to historically Labor being so focused on education and education being front and centred. And I know that I have felt frustrated at times at the lack, what feels like a bit of a lack of opposition voice in the education space. And I think this is really probably, we feel it like it more and more because on the other side, national, it is such an election issue. And, and our minister, Erica Stanford, is so good at the spinning and the talking up, education ad nauseum. Like it feels like, I mean, I don't follow Erica Stanford, but it feels like she's across my feeds, so often talking about education and those things. So I think to do the reshuffle now, I hope putting in a more seasoned MP into that space is a sign that they know it's going to need to become a little bit more central. I know it's not going to change in terms of it becoming an election issue, but I do hope it's maybe a sign that they recognise that there needs to maybe be a more seasoned voice that can stand up to the likes of Erica Stanford in the lead up to the election. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, look, I agree. I don't think we should overcomplicate it as well. I think it is
Mm,
about showing people out there in the sector that there is a really strong counter narrative to what we've been told education needs to look like, and then to really set some directions for what Labor is going to do once they're in government. And
yeah.
so I'm always a kind of glass half full kind of guy. So I kind of see this as a kind of good news story, but definitely a kind of watch this space.
Yeah, yeah, no, it's an interesting time for sure, and then I guess the other thing that's bubbling away in the background at the moment is the countdown is on in terms of getting feedback in around the year 0 to 10 draft curriculum. We know that the timeline for feedback finishes on the 24th of April. Same goes for Maro Tonga o Aotearoa. That also, and we know from the coverage we've seen online, that had a more truncated period of feedback, so actually shorter than the English medium year 0 to 10 draft curriculum. So, how do you feel like people are feeling on the ground? You're in a space where this is getting taught. I'm obviously in a senior high school, so I'm not really so engaged with this on the ground day to day. What's your feelings in the school, in the classroom, are people engaging in the draft curriculum and the feedback, or is it too much?
Look, this is going to come across as really cynical, but
Mm.
I cannot see us getting a huge number of people submitting changes into the draft curriculum. And I think there's going to be a real reliance on unions and sector groups to be able to put those submissions in. I mean, from a kind of intermediate perspective, we've just taken on structured literacy this year, and I feel like everybody's so consumed running in the rat wheel around the maths curriculum and the English curriculum, that the idea of kind of lifting your eyes up from that and engaging with kind of optional curriculum documents
Yeah.
is really hard. I mean, that workload's biting. And I think that there's a kind of really tough tension there because as professionals, I know we care about this stuff, but carving out the space to be able to engage in that stuff meaningfully. And the
Yeah.
bit that I really hate is when they try and dumb down consultation into those like really fast surveys, as if people have kind of got these really top of the head thoughts, and it's just not going to work.
Yeah. And it's going to be interesting to see what the survey quality is like. I know as someone who cared deeply about the proposal to replace the NCEA and going real headfirst into that feedback process, it was really frustrating and really disappointing to see what the actual feedback design was like. Like it was very much set up to sort of like you had what felt like really leading statements about, do you want a qualification framework that matches the curriculum? And it's just like, well, yes, of course I do. But then you realize that by saying yes to that, it was actually framing you as being in support of the changes that were being proposed. And so I think there's a little part of us. I think we've had so many things to write submissions on, give feedback on, and I think we're a combination of exhausted. It feels like there's so much reform, so much change, so much stuff to give feedback on. But also that is coupled with a distrust of the feedback process and whether it makes a damn difference. Like, I don't know about you, having been involved now in a couple of feedbacks and even going to the trouble of speaking to the select committee, I remain unconvinced that it affects much in the way of change. And I don't know what it is that we can encourage people to do. Like, I think we want them to engage because I worry that we're being bamboozled on purpose a little bit. And they are relying on the fact that we're busy and getting on with stuff. So we do need to dig in and we do need to give feedback. But at the same time, gosh, it's hard to trust the system. And I am someone who historically has been a bit of a Pollyanna and someone who always puts my hand up to get involved and, have always historically wanted to be on reference groups and then this group and that group and give feedback however I can. But I can't help feeling that recently it's falling on deaf ears. Do you get that sense in your space as well?
Yeah, very much so, but
Mm.
it's also a direct result of the actions. I mean, we saw really kind of heartfelt engagement in the first version of the English and maths curriculums, only to have them changed 12 months
Yeah.
later.
So it's like,
Um,
well, we give feedback.
yeah,
Doesn't mean that it actually guarantees anything anyway.
but that's the type of stuff that when you've got really busy professionals,
Mm.
really eats into their kind of confidence in the system when they're not sure if it's actually going to be worth it, to be able to spend their time engaging in that.
Yeah.
Uh, and so, yeah, yeah. Also, I think that the part that people actually want to engage in is the bit that's going to be out of scope around some of the kind of broader assumptions that underpin this curriculum direction. Um, and so, I think at best we might get a kind of slowed down timeline of rollout, or a couple of kind of tweaks to the particular bits of knowledge that they want kids to know.
Yeah.
But I think that's kind of a far cry from the conversation the sector actually wants to have around curriculum direction.
Yeah, absolutely. And but I think at this point it is good to shout out that we do have Dr. Claire Coleman, who has kindly offered up to do a whole lot of little. I think they're like they're going to be after school bite size webinars And she's going to roll these out. So we've got them coming up this week. So arts curriculum Wednesday, the 18th of March. Science is on Thursday, the 19th. Technology on Tuesday, the 24th. Learning languages, Tuesday, the 31st of March. Then over in April, we've got health and PE on the 14th of April, social sciences on the 16th of April, and then she's doing a wrap-up session on Tuesday, the 21st of April. So I believe they'll be going out through Claire Coleman Substack, but also through the AEC Substack Live. Make sure if you are interested in finding a way, I think, for people to engage when we're too busy, this might be a nice bite-sized way for people to learn a bit more. I know that she's going to focus on going over what's in the curriculum, but then also some provocations and some things that people might want to think about if they are going to be giving feedback. So good that we've got people out there willing to give up the time and the space and the energy to make this stuff a bit more accessible. And hopefully encourage a few more people to engage. So make sure you check out the work that Claire Coleman's doing in partnership with AEC around that. Coming up in the next week or so as well. And talking of events coming up, we've got our Mr. Stephen Lethbridge, who's going to be doing a webinar this Wednesday night. What's that one about?
That one there, he is going to be having a discussion with Shamobeel, one of our country's top economists, digging into the kind of economics of public education in New Zealand. I know he did a version of this at NZI Te Rero's annual conference last year. And so we've been working with him. And so that's going to be 7:00 on Monday night, just through Substack Live. And I'm looking forward to it.
Is that Wednesday night? Wednesday the 18th?
That's right.
Yeah. Wednesday 18th at 7 p.m. So that'll be an absolutely awesome webinar. And also, we've got pretty exciting announcement coming up, haven't we? So last year we had our first ever Uplifted AEC conference that happened down in Wellington last year. And we have an announcement coming up pretty soon, don't we, in terms of the 2026 Uplifted conference?
Yeah, so the save the date is out there, 8th and 9th of July in Auckland at your school, Claire.
Yes, Albany Senior High School. Come and hang out.
Yeah, and that conference is going to be quite a bit different to the one that we did last year because we think that the landscape's different. And so the general vibe of it is that we want to talk around that kind of long-term aspirational goal of having a kind of bipartisan long-term plan for education. And so we want to be able to have people engaging in what that blueprint should look like and how to bring it to life. We're probably about 2 weeks away from having all of the details out and the ability for people to be able to register. But yeah, I'm really excited about it and the people that we've got at the top of the ticket.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, as you say, that's sort of one of the things that was a real highlight last year was having so many high-level speakers. But one of the things we have reflected on is that people also want time to workshop. They want time to feel like they're translating all of the fantastic thinking and ideas and putting them into action. So it feels like a really suitable follow-up to what was a really successful first Uplifted conference. And hopefully people are out there at the moment cuddling their postcards. Didn't you send out the postcards earlier this week, or was it last week? Postcards went out. So everyone that was at the Uplifted conference last year, they got to complete a promise postcard that I believe you posted out just recently.
Very much so. The bit that I underrated when I took that task on was how long it takes to put a stamp onto 350 postcards. And so yeah, that was definitely an evening of watching Schitt's Creek and just putting on stamp after stamp. But we got the and they're out and about. And actually, the feedback that we have had from people as they have kind of got their postcard and that little kind of shot in the arm around their commitment that they made to curriculum 5 months on has been really good. And so, yeah, well worth it.
Yeah, and it couldn't come at a better time, could it? In terms of we're well and truly in the weeds of term one, and everyone is already feeling the weight of the term hanging over them. So it's nice for them to have a bit of a kick up the backside. So this this podcast, this Substack Live, well, it's not live, is it? And unalive, what is it? Substack delayed.
Not
That we're recording here this evening. We've really got to put it out to people. We need to know, what can we call this thing? If we're looking at doing a Substack every Sunday night, just a short, snappy, on top of whatever's happening currently in education, looking at what's on top, what's next, what do we need to care about at the moment. So the idea is it's going to be regular, it's going to be short, it's going to be snappy, it's going to be the two of us, and potentially with a bit of a revolving chairs in terms of other people coming and joining us on Sunday nights. That's the plan, isn't it?
Very much so.
Yeah.
And given that we are heading into an election year, there's going to be non-stop stuff to talk about.
Absolutely. So I think would love people's idea for what the heck do we want to call this thing, and B, if anyone's got any suggestions of topics they'd like us to cover, people they'd like us to have a conversation with, or even if you are someone that would like to join us for a conversation here on our Substack Unalive. That's not the name of it.
Yeah, let's not get that to catch on.
Yeah. Awesome. So thank you to everyone who stuck with us for our first outing. This is very much just us working our way through a bit of a concept. We'd love to have people join us weekly for a bit of an update, a bit of what's on top, and a bit of what matters in education today.